Did you know electricity bills in parts of Australia have already jumped by up to 25% in a single year? And experts warn that 2026 could be even worse. That's right. If you think your current power bill is high, just wait. According to recent government reports and industry forecasts, millions of Aussie households could face a massive surge in energy prices, pushing families to the edge. But why is this happening? And more importantly, what can you do now to avoid being blindsided? Is it just inflation, or is there something bigger going on behind the scenes? In this video, we'll uncover the 10 hidden reasons your electricity bill is about to skyrocket, some of which no one is talking about. And most importantly, we'll give you practical ways to prepare and even beat the system before it's too late. Stick around, your wallet may depend on it.
Number 1. Rising wholesale energy costs. Here's something most energy users never see, but it affects every bill you pay. Wholesale electricity prices. This is the price energy retailers paid to buy electricity from the market before selling it to you. And right now, those prices are going through the roof. According to the Australian energy regulator, AER, wholesale electricity prices more than doubled in several regions in just the past year. Why? Because of a perfect storm of global and local issues. Let's break it down. Globally, the war in Ukraine and rising demand from countries like China and India have driven up the price of fossil fuels, especially coal and gas. And since a large portion of Australia's power still relies on these sources, our wholesale prices shoot up too. Locally, unpredictable weather events, supply shortages, and aging power plants make the system even more fragile. When supply drops and demand rises, wholesale costs spike. And guess who pays for that in the end? You! The worst part? These wholesale prices don't just hit once. They lock into long-term contracts, meaning your power company will likely pass these costs on to you for years to come.
Number 2. Closure of coal-fired power stations. One of the biggest reasons electricity prices are set to skyrocket in 2026 is something that's been decades in the making: the shutdown of Australia's aging coal-fired power plants. These power stations have been the backbone of our energy grid for over 50 years, supplying a huge chunk of our electricity at relatively low cost. But now, many of them are being retired faster than expected, and that's causing big problems. Take the Liddell Power Station in New South Wales. It officially shut down in 2023 after 52 years of service. More closures, like Victoria's Yallourn and Loy Yang A, are scheduled before or around 2026. Here's the issue. When these plants shut down, we lose a massive amount of reliable baseload power, practically overnight. And because the renewable alternatives like wind and solar aren't ready to fully replace them yet, the energy supply tightens and prices shoot up. Even worse, these closures create uncertainty in the energy market. When energy companies and retailers get nervous about supply, they start raising prices to protect their profits. And once again, you're left footing the bill.
Number 3. Delays in renewable energy infrastructure. You've probably heard it before. Renewables are the future. And that's true. Australia is moving towards solar, wind, and battery storage at a rapid pace. But here's the catch. We're not moving fast enough, and it's costing you. The government has promised that renewables will replace coal and gas. But right now, many major renewable projects are delayed or stuck in limbo. Why? There are a few reasons. Approval bottlenecks, lack of transmission infrastructure, the poles and wires to move solar or wind power across the country, supply chain shortages for key components like batteries and turbines, and in some cases, local opposition slows projects down for months, even years. The result? Even though we're shutting down coal plants, the renewable replacements aren't ready. This creates a dangerous energy gap: less supply, more demand, higher prices. In fact,
The Australian Energy Market Operator, AEMO, has already warned of potential shortfalls in supply if renewable and transmission projects don't accelerate by 2026. And while renewables are cheaper to generate, the initial cost of building and connecting them is massive. And yes, those costs are passed on to consumers through your power bill. We've put a ton of research and effort into making this video simple, clear, and useful. So if it helped you, let us know in the comments. What's your plan to beat the 2026 power price surge? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's just one click, but it means the world to us.
Number 4. The electric vehicle boom is driving up demand. Electric vehicles are no longer a thing of the future. They're here now, and Australians are buying them faster than ever before. Sounds like good news, right? Cleaner air, lower petrol costs, and smarter tech. But here's what most people don't realize. The EV boom is adding serious pressure to our already struggling electricity grid. By 2026, it's estimated that over 1 million EVs will be on Australian roads, and each one of those vehicles needs regular charging, often at home during peak hours, right when the grid is already under the most stress. The result? Spikes in electricity demand, especially in the evening when people return from work and plug in. That extra demand means higher prices during peak periods, and if you're not careful, your power bill could soar even if you don't own an EV. Worse yet, many areas don't have the infrastructure to support this rapid shift. Transformers and local substations are being pushed to their limits, and upgrades aren't happening fast enough. Even businesses and apartment complexes installing EV chargers can shift demand in ways that ripple through entire suburbs.
Number 5. Global gas prices are hitting home hard. Here's something that shocks a lot of Aussies. Australia is one of the world's largest exporters of natural gas, yet we're paying some of the highest gas-linked electricity prices in the developed world. Sounds unfair? That's because it is. Even though we produce massive amounts of gas locally, most of it is locked into long-term export contracts with countries like Japan, South Korea, and China. That means when global gas prices rise, like they did after the war in Ukraine and during worldwide energy shortages, our domestic prices also spike because energy producers can sell gas for more overseas than they can locally. And since a big portion of our electricity still comes from gas-fired power stations, these rising fuel costs directly hit the wholesale electricity market, which trickles down to your home bill. In fact, in 2022-2023, gas prices in Australia surged so high that the federal government had to intervene with a temporary price cap. But that cap won't last forever, and by 2026, analysts warn that gas-linked electricity pricing could get even worse, especially if exports increase or global demand spikes again.
Number 6. Climate policies and carbon pricing will push costs higher. Australia is finally catching up on climate action, and while that's great news for the planet, it comes with a price tag that will land right on your electricity bill. To meet net zero targets by 2050, the government is introducing stricter emissions rules for energy companies. That means power generators, especially those using coal and gas, will face tougher regulations, higher compliance costs, and potentially carbon pricing. What is carbon pricing? It's a system where companies must pay for the carbon they emit, essentially putting a price on pollution. Sounds fair, right? But here's the catch. Those costs don't stay with the companies. They usually get passed down to consumers through higher electricity rates. And even renewable energy projects aren't immune. Large-scale solar and wind farms still require materials, transportation, and construction, all of which leave a carbon footprint and face rising costs under new environmental standards. According to the Australian Energy Market Commission, policy-driven price increases could start to show up in household bills as early as 2025 and become more noticeable by 2026, especially in states still dependent on fossil fuels. So even if you're using clean power, you could still feel the pinch.
Number 7. Aging electricity infrastructure is falling apart. Much of Australia's electricity grid is decades old, and it's starting to show. From rusting poles and wires to outdated substations, the infrastructure that delivers power to your home is under serious strain, and upgrading it isn't cheap. Here's the problem. As coal plants shut down and more renewable energy comes online, we need to move power across longer distances, from remote solar and wind farms to urban areas. But the existing grid was never designed for this kind of load or complexity. As a result, billions of dollars are now being poured into upgrading transmission lines, reinforcing substations, and adding new technologies to stabilize the network. And guess who's funding those upgrades? You are! Energy providers and grid operators pass these infrastructure costs on to consumers through higher network charges, a key part of your electricity bill. In fact, in some areas, network charges make up over 40% of your total bill. And it's only going to increase. The Australian Energy Regulator has approved major upgrades across several states, with more planned before 2026, and the costs will be recovered over the next decade.
Number 8. Peak time pricing is getting smarter. Imagine this. You get home after a long day, switch on the heater, start cooking dinner, run the washing machine, and suddenly, your electricity bill jumps without warning. Welcome to the world of dynamic pricing, also known as time-of-use tariffs. And by 2026, they'll be far more common and much more punishing. Here's how it works. Instead of charging you a flat rate for electricity, providers will charge different prices depending on the time of day. Power used during peak hours, usually in the evening when everyone's home, will cost significantly more than off-peak times, like late at night or mid-morning. Why is this happening? Because as demand surges and supply becomes tighter, thanks to everything we've talked about so far, energy companies are using pricing as a tool to manage grid pressure. And with the rollout of smart meters, they can now track and bill your usage in real time. This means your habits, even small ones, like boiling a kettle or running the dryer at 7 p.m., could cost you 2x or 3x more than doing the same thing at 11 a.m. And it's only the beginning. Some experts predict that by 2026, real-time pricing could be adjusted by the hour based on weather, grid demand, and energy supply.
Number 9. Global supply chain disruptions are making energy more expensive. You've probably heard about supply chain issues since the pandemic. Delays, shortages, and rising prices on everything from electronics to groceries. But what many don't realize is that these same disruptions are quietly driving up your electricity bill too. How? Because building and maintaining energy infrastructure relies on a complex global supply chain, and it's currently under pressure like never before. Australia imports many of the critical components needed to power the grid and expand renewable energy. This includes solar panels, wind turbines, transformers, smart meters, batteries, and even parts for coal and gas plants. When these parts become harder to source or more expensive, energy companies delay projects or pass the costs on to consumers through higher bills. Add to that the rising costs of shipping raw materials like copper and lithium and labor shortages, and you have a recipe for soaring infrastructure costs. For example, the price of lithium, essential for battery storage, has more than doubled in recent years. And without affordable storage, it's harder to balance renewable energy output, leading to more reliance on expensive backup power. All of this slows down the transition to cheaper energy and keeps the system costly and unstable right when we need it to be fast and efficient. Number 10. Extreme weather is driving up your power bill. Australia is no stranger to scorching heat waves, devastating floods, and powerful storms. But what's changing is how often they're happening and how much they're costing you. Thanks to climate change, we're seeing more frequent and intense weather events, and they're having a direct impact on your electricity bill. Here's how. During heat waves, millions of homes crank up the air conditioning at the same time, pushing the grid to its limits. When demand spikes like this, energy providers often have to switch on expensive backup generators or buy emergency supply from other states, both of which cost more and get passed straight on to consumers. Meanwhile, floods and storms damage power lines, transformers, and substations, leading to costly repairs. Energy companies don't absorb those losses. They recover them over time through your bill. And it's not just immediate damage. These weather extremes are making the entire grid more unstable, requiring extra investment in resilience measures like underground cabling, emergency batteries, and climate-proofing infrastructure. All expensive upgrades that, again, land on your bill. The Australian Climate and Energy College estimates that weather-related costs to the energy system could double by 2030, and you're already seeing the early effects. By now, it's clear. Australia's electricity bills are on a collision course with some of the biggest economic, environmental, and political shifts we've seen in decades. From rising wholesale costs to coal plant closures, from EV-driven demand surges to extreme weather events, every factor we've explored points to one outcome. Electricity prices will not stay where they are. And while 2026 might feel far off, the warning signs are already here. Households are reporting double-digit increases, and government forecasts show this is just the beginning. But here's the good news. You're informed, and that gives you power. Because the families and individuals who understand the energy system, even just the basics, are the ones who can adapt early, save more, and stay ahead of the storm. So don't wait for your bill to become a shock. Let's take action now. Up next, we'll break down exactly what you can do to protect yourself, cut costs, and future-proof your energy use, step by step. If the idea of skyrocketing electricity bills makes you nervous, you're not alone. But there's good news. You can take control of your power usage and protect your wallet with smart, simple steps. Here's how. 1. Switch to a smarter energy plan. Use tools like Energy Made Easy or Compare the Market to find better deals. Avoid providers heavily reliant on coal or gas, and consider fixed-rate plans if available to lock in predictable pricing. 2. Invest in solar and battery systems. If you own your home, now is the time to go solar. Government rebates and feed-in tariffs still exist, but they may shrink as demand rises. Pair solar with a battery system to store power and use less from the grid, especially during peak hours. 3. Shift your energy habits. Avoid running major appliances during peak times. Use timers, smart plugs, or apps to schedule devices overnight or midday when prices are lower. 4. Make your home energy efficient. Upgrade insulation, seal windows and doors, and switch to LED lighting and energy-efficient appliances. These changes reduce how much energy you need in the first place, and that's the best way to save long-term. 5. Stay informed and vote smart. Energy policy matters. Support leaders and local projects that promote renewable energy, fair pricing, and smart infrastructure upgrades, all of which put pressure on government to act sooner. Even small actions can make a big difference when done early. The energy crisis isn't just coming, it's already started. But with the right strategy, you can stay ahead of it. And now, we want to hear from you. What's your biggest concern about rising power bills? Drop it in the comments below. We read every single one. If you found this video helpful, check out our previous video for more smart ways to protect your wallet. We pour hours of research and editing into every episode, so if you appreciate the effort, please support us with a quick subscribe. It's just one click, but it means the world to us. Until next time, stay informed, stay smart, and stay ahead.